is shining, in the midst of the darkness shining. Jesus, light of the world, shine upon us. Set us free by the truth you now bring us. Shine on me, shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine. Fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze. Set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow. Flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light.
Hello and welcome to Let the Bible Speak. My name is Alex Meredith. I'm a minister for the Marquette Church of Christ here in the Central UP. Thank you for watching today. We are continuing this series we've been in for a few weeks now called The Questions of Jesus. We're looking at some of these critical questions that Jesus asked during his time here on earth and seeing what, he really wants us to think about some very important topics and issues. So that's what we've been covering the last several weeks, and we're going to continue that today. Our question today comes from John chapter 8, verse 10, and it's really a two-part question. It's going to need a little context to really understand. But the question reads like this: Where are they? Has no one condemned you? Now, as I mentioned, we need some context here to really understand what this question means. So we're going to be looking at John chapter 8, and we're going to start reading in verse 2. This is probably one of the most famous stories in the Bible. Even if you don't know much about the Bible, you may have heard this story or maybe heard things about this story. This is the story of the woman caught in adultery that's brought before Jesus, where people are getting ready to stone her, and Jesus basically makes them all go away. This is where you get the phrase, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone," and other modern renditions of it. But it all comes from this story, the story of the woman caught in adultery. So let's start reading. Again, this is John 8, starting in verse 2, and we're going to read through verse 11. Early in the morning, Jesus came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now, in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say?" This they did to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. And as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones. And Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus stood up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more." If you're reading this passage, if you've actually got a physical copy of the Bible in front of you, even if you've got the Bible pulled up on a phone or an iPad or a computer, you might notice that most translations towards the very beginning of this passage, it actually starts in chapter 7, verse 53, which is sort of the narrative beginning of this section. You might have noticed this phrase. It says, the earliest manuscripts do not include chapter 7, verse 53 through chapter 8, verse 11. And typically it'll have it in brackets, right? It's not actually part of the text, but it has it in brackets there just to alert you of that. Now, I want to take a second to address this because, this is a pretty rare thing as far as I know. I think there are only two possibly 3 places in Scripture where this even happens, where you have a note like this put in by modern editors, or modern translators, I should say. And I want to talk about it because a lot of times this topic is avoided because, admittedly, it is complex. It's kind of a sensitive issue. So I just want to tell you why it's there. So the first thing that you need to understand is that the Bible really is this conglomeration of various manuscript fragments and codices, books that we have over the course of history. So, we don't have one whole standing copy of the New Testament front to back from the 1st century AD. That just doesn't exist because of the way that documents weren't maintained super well back in the 1st century. They didn't survive, So we don't have that, but we do have a number of fragments and pieces of books from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Every century, we have fragments and pieces of different books along the way. And what we do in these modern translations of the Bible is we take all of that and we piece it together until we have a good understanding of, okay, this is what was originally written. And there's a whole sort of science behind this, and there's a whole method to this. I won't get into all that right now, but there's a very reliable way to tell this is what is original to the text. Matthew, in writing his gospel, this is what was original to the text, and we are sure of it, And it said, I know I read recently where 99.5% of the Bible, or of the New Testament rather, at least 99.5% of it is certainly accurately matched. And where there is variance and discrepancy between certain manuscripts and other parts, vast majority of those variances are totally insignificant, and none of them have a big impact on the way that we read Scripture, on our theology, on our understanding of just about anything. So occasionally, when you do have one manuscript from this period that mismatches with a manuscript from another period, again, a lot of times it's a spelling error, or maybe in the 2nd century they spelled a name a certain way that they didn't before, And so a lot of these differences are so trivial, they're very easy to detect and very easy to resolve. And modern translators can figure that out. But sometimes it's a little more complicated. And that's what happens here in John chapter 5, 53 through John chapter 8, verse 11. When we look at some of the oldest manuscripts that we have, so Papyrus 66, Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Vaticanus, Codex Alexandrinus, these are sources ranging from around 100 AD all the way up to about 400 AD. They're some of the oldest, most reliable texts that we have. They don't include this section of John. They just don't have it in there. The earliest known inclusion of this text comes around 400 AD by some Latin sources. Now, that's not to say, for all we know, we could dig something up tomorrow and, well, there we go. We've got a 1st century source with this section of John in it. We just don't know. We have a limited ability to discern exactly what was and wasn't there. So we work with what we know and what we have. Now, there are a few possible explanations for why some of these early manuscripts don't have this section. It could be that it was actually original to the text, but some people very early on misread it as being pro-adultery in some way. And, early Christianity very much struggled with that sort of thing. So maybe they were very adverse and wary about including that there. It's possible that it was a true story, but it wasn't original to the text, but a later editor put it in there. And there are a number of other explanations. I don't have time to go over all of that right now, but the short of it is, and here's where I land. And again, if you want to learn more about this, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to tell you what I know about it anyway. Not that I'm an expert, but I'd be glad to share what I know. But where I land on it, I think it's true. I think that the story as it's depicted, I think it's true. I think it is there in our Bibles for a reason. I think God has allowed it to be there for a reason, and I think that we can learn something from it. So, with that being said, moving sort of past that and into the text itself, let's listen to this. So we start out in verse 2. It says that he came again to the temple. Now, when it says he came again to the temple, well, this wasn't Jesus' first time being in this sort of high-pressure situation. He had been teaching there off and on, and he had gotten somewhat notorious, at least among the Jewish leadership. Many of them, I think, were jealous of the attention that he was getting. I think many of them were threatened by what they thought he represented. And so what they were trying to do, in verse 3, it says, the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery. What they're trying to do is they're trying to catch him. They're trying to get him into trouble. And here's how they think this will work. They're going to bring him this woman who's been caught in adultery, which, for all we know, we don't have any reason to disbelieve that claim. In fact, if you look later on in the story, it seems that Jesus affirms her guilt. But they bring her this woman who's been caught in this egregious sin. And they're thinking, all right, well, either he's going to say, yeah, go ahead and stone her, in which case he might get into some trouble with the Romans. Also, it turns out that the Jewish people during this time weren't actually very good at enforcing that law. So, he might have aroused the anger of some of the Jewish people as well. They might have seen him as a bit of a radical. But then, on the other hand, if he says, nah, don't worry about it, just let her go, well, then they could say he's, abandoning Moses and ignores our traditions and our laws. And, either way, they think they've got it made, right? They think they figured out a way to catch him. In verse 5, they say, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, if you've got a second, go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10, Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 22. If you look very carefully at these passages, here's what you'll find. Yes, the law does in fact command the stoning of women who are found to be participating in adultery. Do you know what it also calls for? It calls for the stoning of the man as well. How about that? It calls for the stoning of both the man and the woman in order to, quote, purge the evil from Israel. Right? That was the point of the execution, actually. It was to get rid of all tendencies to commit evil and to commit sin in the nation of Israel. We'll come back to that in a minute. But again, they don't quite understand the full extent of the law here. In verse 6, it says that Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. Now, I am not going to pretend that I know what he wrote on the ground. Long story short, it doesn't tell us. We're not told what Jesus wrote on the ground. I don't know what Jesus wrote on the ground. Some people think, well, maybe he's writing out in the Hebrew the actual law from Leviticus or Deuteronomy. Maybe he's writing that out in the sand and people are realizing there's more to this. Maybe he wrote out other laws that people were guilty of breaking. Maybe he wrote out the man's name who was also guilty. Maybe it was just a gesture of embarrassment. I heard that as a possibility as well. We're not told, so I don't want to speculate too much on this. But in verse 8, this is really critical. He says, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. Isn't it funny? In judging other people, we often crucify ourselves, don't we? Because when we tell, and this is what Paul says in his letter to the Romans, I think in Romans chapter 2, he says, you teachers who teach do not commit adultery. Do you go out and commit adultery? You teach people not to rob temples. Do you also go out and rob temples? If you're telling people not to do something that you're doing in your own life, you're pronouncing judgment against yourself, And that's not too smart of a thing. The only person in that crowd who was worthy to cast a stone at her, the only one who was without sin, Jesus, he didn't choose condemnation. That day he chose forgiveness. And that really speaks volumes, doesn't it? In verse 9, after Jesus challenges them, it says they went away one by one. Notice, by the way, it starts with the older people. It makes mention of that. It says starting with the older ones, they began to walk away. I think one of the things that happens with age is that we gain this increased awareness of our own failings, of our own errancy, of our own culpability and vulnerability. I think that happens as we get older. We get wiser and we start to realize we're not infallible, right? So people begin to leave. Now, here's, I think, the most central part of this whole story. In verse 10, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" What had happened is that people had started to go away, and eventually everybody had gone away, and it was just Jesus and the woman. And there is something transcendently true about that. This whole story is centered around this question. And it's this idea that, those who speak ill of you, those who would wish to condemn you, those who accuse you, one day they're all going to be gone. One day they're all going to be gone. Maybe you move on with your life. Maybe they pass away. Maybe, one way or another, they're all going to be gone. And then you're going to stand before Jesus. And it's not going to be you and all the people that you knew. It's going to be you and Jesus and nobody else. And there's only going to be one opinion that matters. And it's not going to be theirs. And that's either really good news or really bad news for you. It could be bad news because it's quite possible that you've surrounded yourself with a bunch of yes men who constantly tell you what a fantastic person you are, despite the fact that you maybe do some bad stuff. You're not perfect. And maybe you need people around you to tell you that, But maybe, on the other hand, it's really good news because maybe you're surrounded by people who are hypercritical of you, who are constantly looking to put you down, who are constantly looking just to belittle you, make you feel guilty, make you feel bad. And then maybe it's a bit of a relief that it'll just be you and Jesus. And despite what other people may think, you will hear one day those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." There's only one opinion that matters. In verse 11, Jesus, he says, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more." That word condemn, when he says, "Neither do I condemn you," the Greek idea there is sort of to judge against. In other words, it's not just an evaluation of behavior, it's delivering a sentence. And that's where you see the really incredible grace of God. Jesus recognized her sin. And you could say that to an extent he actually called it out. He says, "Go and sin no more," which implies that, you've messed up. You've made some mistakes. But in spite of that sin, Jesus forgives her, right? And that's really incredible. But then he leaves her with this warning. And really, he's fulfilling the function of the law. We talk about, and this is from an idea presented in Matthew chapter 5, actually. We talk about Jesus being the fulfillment of the law. Well, Jesus fulfills the function of the law here, not just by forgiving her, but by telling her, don't do this again. He's purging the evil from Israel. He's trying to tell them, I'll forgive you now, but let's not mess this up again, because you could find yourself back in some real trouble if you do go back down this path, right? So, he leaves her with this warning, lest you think that Jesus is soft on adultery, right? The big message when you look at this passage, I think it's twofold. For one thing, there's this message embedded in this that, number one, we are far too concerned with other people's righteousness. We're far too concerned with what other people have and haven't done, which is ironic because, we're just as guilty. Even if we're not guilty of the same sins, even if you have one single sin on your record, you are just as guilty as the mass murderer. So that's one problem. We're far too concerned with other people's righteousness. And then the other problem is sort of the flip side of that, which is we're far too concerned with what other people think about our righteousness. And it doesn't matter. That's the cool part about this story. You realize it doesn't matter. Now, is it possible that godly guidance could come from other people? Yes. I'm not suggesting we put our fingers in our ears and la, 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 I don't want to hear it. I'm not suggesting that we just shut everybody out. But we need to have some discernment to be able to tell, is this person trying to help me and build me up, or are they just looking to criticize me? How often is it really the case that people are just trying to build us up? We need to have some discernment there. There was this young girl named Tabitha. And Tabitha, she was this beautiful 7-year-old girl. And at the school that she went to, she wasn't the most popular in her class. She had a bit of a lazy eye, and people made fun of her for it. And, not the greatest situation on her part. But to her credit, she was quite resilient. She would go out, and it would be time for recess, and they would go out to the playground. And when they went out there, most of the girls would go off in this direction. She went off and did her own thing. And at recess, she would go to Tabitha Land. And it was this pretend place to her where she was this princess. She lived in this castle. She has magic power. These magic powers, she has tea every day with all the people and the animals of the kingdom, and everybody was nice to her. Everybody thinks she's the most beautiful girl there, and there are no bullies. And, the end of recess would come about, and people would be going inside, and much to the annoyance of her tormentors, she would just be the happiest she could be. It didn't matter what people said to her. They could make fun of her, they could laugh at her all throughout her doing this, but she just didn't care, And I wonder sometimes, could we learn something from people like Tabitha? Not that we should just live in fantasy, but how different would our lives be if we didn't allow our mood and our life to be dictated by the opinions of other people? Especially when we think about people who are not guided by God's word, who have a different set of values than us, right? There's a passage relevant to all this, Romans chapter 14, starting in verse 10. It says, "Why do you pass judgment on your brother? Or you, why do you despise your brother? For we will all stand before the judgment seat of God. For it is written, 'As I live, declares the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to God.' So then each one of us will give an account of himself to God." There's only one opinion that matters. And by the way, it's not even yours. I think our society has gotten pretty good at this, don't care too much what the haters think. I think maybe Taylor Swift had a bit of an impact there, who knows. But I think we've sort of shifted this, ignore what other people think, and we've sort of shifted to this, it only matters what you think about yourself. Well, does it? Is our value and our identity chiefly defined by what we think about ourselves, or is it chiefly defined by what God thinks about us? I think it's the latter, right? So we go back to this question. Where are they? Has no one condemned you? What I want to challenge you to do this week, I want to challenge you to be the person, be the man, be the woman that God has called you to be. Not what anybody else expects you to be. Be the person that God has called you to be. And I know that's a challenging thing to do, and it's a challenging thing to figure out. But I think you'll find that the more you invest yourself in study, in prayer, the more you'll discover the man or the woman, the son, the daughter, the brother, the sister, the husband, the wife, the better you'll discover what kind of person God has called you to be and how to fulfill those roles faithfully. I want to read one last passage to you. This is from Proverbs chapter 26. Proverbs chapter 26, starting in verse 24. Whoever hates disguises himself with his lips and harbors deceit in his heart. When he speaks graciously, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Though his hatred be covered with deception, his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will come back on him who starts it rolling. That sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? I want to thank you for the time and attention you've given me today. Thank you for, I hope this lesson was beneficial to you in some way. Before we go, I want to take some time to tell you about some of the resources that we have to offer you. All of these, by the way, are totally free of charge to you. We don't expect anything from you to send us anything or anything like that. So I want to tell you about some of these before we go. First of all, I want to tell you about our workbook program. It's called our Bible Correspondence Course. Each of these is just a little booklet, and what it is it walks you through a study to help you understand and get acquainted with Scripture. This is good, especially if you haven't studied the Bible very much and don't know where to start. This is a good way to get into that. If you want to participate in that and don't have a Bible, or if you don't have a Bible anyway, we also offer those, again, totally free of charge. You just have to let us know that you want one. We have Bibles in the English Standard Version translation. They are hardcover, and we have both regular print and large print. If you send a message to us, just specify which one you want, if you could. Otherwise, we'll send you a regular version. Our mailing info is there on the screen. You can reach us at the Marquette Church of Christ, P.O. Box 372. That's in Marquette, zip code 49855. You can also find a lot of this information, and you can send us a message on letthebiblespeak.net. If you go to letthebiblespeak.com, that is a different ministry. But if you go to letthebiblespeak.net, you'll find us, the local UP-based ministry here. If you don't know about this, we also have a podcast. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify and Podbean. It's just another way to listen to the same episodes that stream here on television. All the episodes go up on the same times and dates that we aired them on TV. And again, that's available on Spotify and Podbean if you search Let the Bible Speak UP. I'd also just like to say all of you are always invited to join us in worship, whether that's at the Marquette Church of Christ. The Marquette Church is at 1104 West Fair Avenue. That's in Marquette, right across from the high school. We have Bible class at 10 o'clock, worship at 11 o'clock, starting here shortly, I believe. You're always welcome to join us there, or at the Escanaba Church as well. I think that's on 5079 18th Road in Escanaba. Thank you so much for joining me this week. May God bless you, and I'll catch you next week here on Let the Bible Speak.
The Father's glory blaze, Spirit blaze, set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow, flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord. Let there be